Hi, I'm here to pick up my son Milo.
There's no Milo here.
Who picked up my son from school?
Streaming only on Peacock.
I'm gonna need the name of everyone that could have a connection.
You don't understand. It was just the 5 of us.
So this was all planned.
What are you gonna do?
I will do whatever it takes to get my son back.
I honestly didn't see this coming. These nice people killing each other.
All Her Fault. A new series streaming now only on Peacock.
This episode is brought to you by Greenlight. Get this. Adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/Spotify. Greenlight.com/Spotify.
Hi, everyone. This is Fred. Wait, you know that? This isn't going well. He isn't going to like this voice. Oh no, let me try again. Sorry, everyone. I'm new.
Non-binary listeners, ladies and gentlemen, heroes and heroines, crooks and crookieens, EMF. The audio performance you are about to enjoy discusses casinos and gambling. We do not recommend gambling with money you cannot afford to lose or that is needed to pay bills. If you have a gambling problem, contact your problem gambling hotline. If you do not know how to contact your problem gambling hotline, send an email to help@casinokombat.com. We will find that number for you and provide it to you. Our hosts' past performances are not indicative of anyone's future performance, including his own. All materials presented here are based on actual facts. Names and dates are changed to protect the innocent and the guilty. Some events unrelated to outcomes may be omitted in the interest of brevity and clarity. The contents of this episode are the property of Volcanic Dingo LLC. All rights reserved.
It's me, it's TRG, the Ramblin Gambler, just trying to make a living and doing the best I can.
Lyrics, dude. Recite him some lyrics.
Lyrics. This is actually spur of the moment. I should have thought about this a little more. What was in the intro? Oh, you burden me with your questions. You'd have me tell no lies. You're always asking what it's all about, but don't listen to my replies. You say to me I don't talk enough, but when I do, I'm a fool. Welcome to episode 162 of our Casino Kombat podcast. If this is your next time, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming back. I do truly appreciate the gift of your time. If this is your first time, if you have not been here before, if you do not know what this is all about, give me just a few more minutes and I have something very, very special to tell you if this is your first time. But before we do that, your questions are not a burden. I know some of you think that, but they are not a burden, not in any way. Doing this podcast and meeting all of you, having the privilege of being asked your questions is one of the best things about my life, no doubt. Not always Mrs. TRG's life, I might add. I think that she might say that if she was being completely candid. She might feel like the questions are, not a burden. I don't think she'd say that, but she might say they're a distraction. Sometimes I'm answering questions when she'd rather I be doing other things once in a while. But regardless, I appreciate the questions. I always do my best to tell no lies. And yes, I sometimes feel like people don't always listen to my replies, but that's pretty standard in just about anything, let alone listening to a guy that you've never met talk into the air. No worries on that front. As for the rest of it, I don't think I've ever been accused of not talking enough. So let's just leave things at that and move along. If this is your first time, I said I have something very special to tell you, and I do. I do without a doubt. When your device and or streaming service decided to show you the tile for this podcast, or when your search turned up a link to this episode, however, in whatever way you found us, That was an invitation to be part of one of the greatest tools for success at the game of casino gambling that has ever been created, and one of the most cost-effective ways to learn a very, very unique skill. Listening to this podcast, understanding and doing the things we talk about here can put you in a very unique, very limited, very special group of people, a very small group of people. The group of people who have the knowledge and skills to use casinos as a tool to enhance their life and enjoy the world at little to no cost. Example, I grilled yesterday. Nothing special, but I was asked to do turkey burgers for the first time ever. Not a clue. Been grilling burgers forever, been grilling other things forever. Not really a chicken guy. Have never been a barbecued chicken on the grill guy particularly. Maybe I need to expand my skill set, but I'm asked to do turkey burgers for some people that have some preferences, which is wonderful. Happy to do that, but I'm just reading the package and following the directions and trying to do this right for the first time in a way that my guests will A, enjoy, and B, not be sickened by. And the directions say, cook until the internal temperature is 165. Okay, but I've got meat on the grill already. I've got to turn these in another minute or two. I don't have a meat thermometer. I'm complaining. I'm grousing. I don't have a meat thermometer. What am I going to do? Mrs. TRG says, of course you do. It's on the shelf with the other casino gifts I thought we should keep in case we needed them. Casino enhanced life. Need a meat thermometer to grill turkey burgers? Here's a meat thermometer at zero cost and expense. Silly example. Yes, silly example. All right, first time here? Not impressed? Okay, fair. It really did save me some time and money, but okay, you're not impressed, so okay. One of our regular listeners just spent 3 comped nights at Caesars in Atlantic City, not an inexpensive property. Ate a large percentage of his meals on comps from another property. Brought home a nice bag that he thought his wife might like that Caesars gifted to him. Got some free money to gamble with and a pass to the VIP lounge at resorts. When he got home, I was able to have his play reviewed at Caesars, and another $50 of his room charges were comped off. And he returned home with more money than he had when he left. That level of knowledge, skill, and access are part of the invitation you received when that tile or that link was shown to you. So we are glad you clicked on it. We hope you stick around, and that's what we have to offer in exchange for the gift of your time, is the knowledge to do that thing, that free comped weekend where you come home from time on the boardwalk in Atlantic City with more money than you left with and a handbag. That's what we do here. That's what we teach. That's what you got into. We really hope that you will stick around and be part of our squad. And I'll tell you what we're going to talk about today in just a minute, but let me tell you what is going on in the Casino Kombat galaxy. We talked last episode about a new casino wisdom, card subject to change. And I got a few emails with examples from some of you out there in the squad with examples of how that wisdom occurred in your life. And I apologize, I made notes on those, but I didn't include the email addresses in my notes to go along with them, so I am sorry about that. But if I'm using one of yours, I've sent you a thank you already personally. I really do appreciate it. I really do appreciate the time, thought, and contribution to our podcast. It is what I am trying to do here and make it about us, not about me. The first example of card subject to change that I was sent is getting on. I've actually done this one. Yeah, I thought that when I got this email. The card subject to change is getting on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship in Texas, thinking you've been on Royal Caribbean ships before, you understand how everything works, you go to your favorite Royal Caribbean bar and order your favorite drink, and you're told they can't serve that on the first night. They have a special night 1 drink menu, very limited, not particularly elaborate, not particularly cleverly named, And that is a great example. I've actually experienced this exact same thing. Did almost literally the exact same thing. We sailed out of Galveston on a dice cruise, and we'd been on other dice cruises, and we've been on Royal Caribbean cruises, and we've got the drink package, and we know what's going on, and we head to the Schooner Bar for a toasted marshmallow old fashioned and a lavender daiquiri, and nope. The card has been changed. In this case, the card is the menu, but the card has been changed. We are not having those on the first night. It turns out Texas has, and I'm not an expert or a lawyer, nor do I have any knowledge of Texas, but the way it was explained to me is that Texas has a law stating that ships sailing out of Texas must serve liquor sourced, which is to say purchased, in Texas. And that's what they have to serve while in the waters of the United States. And as a result, Royal limits the types of drinks it serves the first night to avoid paying higher taxes and higher prices by buying things in Texas. It limits what it buys there and therefore limits what it serves. And I have learned that that is better than another card subject to change, which is showing up for a cruise out of a port in Texas on some other cruise lines and finding out that despite the fact that you bought the drink package, they simply don't serve any drinks until they are in international waters. So you can get on the ship at noon and it's not leaving till 4, and you're ready to start your vacation, and drinking in the Caribbean was part of the vacation you had planned because you bought the drink package. And you find out that, it's gonna be another 6-7 hours until they're willing to open up the bars because they simply are not willing to pay the taxes and increased prices that Texas charges for their bottles of liquor. Along those same lines, and that would really stink, by the way. That would be a card subject to change that I would not be happy with. But along those same lines, I got an email from a squad member saying his big card subject to change moment was going on his 10th cruise, but sailing out of Boston for the first time. This is interesting. And he goes to the casino after dinner to grab a comped beer before going to the show, planning to come back and play roulette after the show, and he finds out that from Boston, apparently, at least on this cruise line or on this particular sail, it was going to take so long to actually get out of the harbor and out into international waters that the casino doesn't open on the first night at all. Very much card subject to change. That would, I'd be all ready to go. Although first night gambling on cruise ships is not something I've done with a whole lot of skill recently, but I would be showing up in the casino thinking, of course, normally the casino's open by 6. When you cruise out of Miami, when you cruise out of Orlando, when you cruise out of Lauderdale, you're very quickly in international waters and the casino is open, the slot machines at least are on, the bar is open, the drinks are flowing, and you're good to go. And apparently that's not the case if you go out of Boston. Can't comment, don't know. Someone else wrote to tell me that their card subject to change moment involves every time they get to the point where they understand free bets at their regular casino, something about how those free bets can be played on the blackjack table changes. I guess at first it was blackjacks were only paid even money, and they couldn't double a free bet with chips. They could, however, make a second hand with a free bet and their own chips being the second hand. And then all of a sudden, the casino started paying 3-2 on free bets where you were dealt a natural blackjack, and you could double a free bet with chips, but splits were no longer allowed at all. And of course, this was revealed to our squad mate, who thought he had it all figured out when he had a $200 free bet in the circle and was dealt a pair of 8s against a dealer's 7. The play, since he was not allowed to split, was that he had to hit. He had 16 against a 7. He hits, he draws a 10, and he busts. The next card out is a 10. That went to another player, obviously. And the dealer had a 10 under their 7 for a total of 17. The coupon was lost. Didn't have any value, but think about it. If he had been allowed to play the way he was used to playing in this particular location, He was used to being able to split. If he'd have been able to split, in this case, he would have won $400 instead of getting nothing and giving up his free bet coupon. That is a frustrating change for sure. Great examples, everyone. Thanks for sending those over to me. Really appreciate it. If you've got some others, love to hear them and share them with the squad. The other thing that I wanted to mention before I lay out the battle plan, the other thing going on in the Casino Kombat galaxy was a bit of a surprise born of, honestly, greed and desperation. And if you listened, maybe you caught that. There was an Easter egg hidden in the last episode. There was an audio Easter egg hidden, and if you didn't find it, please don't worry about it. It was unplanned. It was a bit chaotic and certainly nothing major. I really didn't expect anyone to find it. I had other reasons for doing it, but a number of you did find it. I was so surprised, and people sent me emails and said that they had found it. It was really fun that people were actually listening to that level. So certainly not every episode, but in many episodes going forward, I am going to continue to hide Easter eggs in that same spot. If you're interested, make a habit of looking there, right? It's like the place the Easter Bunny always hid Easter eggs when you were a kid that you always knew to look. So look in that spot. I'm going to just have little things to share with the ultimate insiders that know where to look for that little Easter egg. Going to try to make it interesting. Going to try to make it relevant to the podcast, relevant in some cases to the episode. And that, I think, should be a fun little thing that we can do going forward. A little insider information for those of you that know where to look. Okay, every episode I put together something I call the battle plan. The things we are going to talk about during the episode. For episode 162, we are going to start with a Questions My Sons Ask segment. I recently received a question from Racer X.
Unknown to Speed, Racer X is his older brother Rex, who ran away from home years ago.
Really great question, one that is worth answering on its own. And then I also have some observations about what it tells us, what the ability to get the answer tells us about the very unique moment in time that we live in. Then we're going to have a Moment of Koncepts segment. I want to share something I've noticed and something that I've been thinking about a great deal in the hopes that it will perhaps help you see casinoing in a slightly different way, perhaps a more advanced way, perhaps in a way you didn't realize was possible. Finally, we will finish up in the virtual VIP lounge, and along with our normal sips and snacks, enjoy a conversation with a very special guest about a topic I can't talk enough about. All right, we are ready. Let's get started. Let's do Questions My Sons Ask.
What?
My sons asked questions about gambling. That was inevitable. They were around casinos, not around, but casino adjacent because of how I was playing and things like that for large parts of the later portion, the high school years of their lives. And they got to ask plenty of questions. And of course, listeners and friends ask questions about gambling. We opened the show talking about questions and the questions I receive and how much, in fact, they are not at all a burden. They're a blessing, kind of to tie in with this. So and the part where it's a bit of a distraction sometimes, I think, from Mrs. TRG's point of view. We're sitting on the couch and I get a text message from my good friend Racer X.
Unknown to Speed, Racer X is his older brother Rex, who ran away from home years ago.
And he wanted to know if it made a difference in his blackjack play if the dealer didn't deal themselves a second card before the players played their hand. Now, if you're not aware, and many of you would have no reason to be, I am led to understand that that is how blackjack is dealt in Europe. And the reason I'm led to believe that is because it is called European blackjack, and what I normally do here in North America is called American blackjack. So I am forced to assume, having never been there, that having each player receive 2 cards, the dealer having received the first card right after all the players received their first card, but not receiving a second card, is how they play the game in Europe. Because otherwise, why would they call it European Blackjack? And why would someone be asking me if it is different or important or makes a difference? I've got to assume all of those to be true, and we are going to proceed forward with the answer based on that assumption. It does matter. It does impact how you play, or it should. Let me say it that way. It should impact how you play. Think about how it normally works here in North America. And for those of you that are craps players or box players or roulette players, the way blackjack is almost always dealt in North America is everybody, including the dealer, gets a card. Everybody, including the dealer, gets a second card. That card is turned face up. Any side bets involving that card are resolved. And then the dealer, in some fashion, looks underneath to make sure they don't have a blackjack. And if the dealer has a blackjack, the hand is over. If the dealer has an ace showing, everyone's offered the chance to buy insurance. If the dealer has a 10 showing, they simply look under. Back in the day, they used to look underneath with their hands, and there were dealers that got sloppy and didn't necessarily protect things. That technique is called hole carding, where you sit on one side of the dealer or the other and hope to get a look when they check their card. In a lot of modern casinos, that is checked with a small mirror that only the dealer can see. Sometimes it's checked by pushing a button because there's a chip hidden inside. Well, not hidden, place is a better word there. There's a chip in the card, and so they check using that chip and a machine that can read that chip. That, once again, don't want to expose that card to potential cheats, to potential abusers of the game. And once we are assured that the house does not have a blackjack, a hand that is guaranteed for them to either win or at worst push if you have a blackjack as well, then the play of the game proceeds. Now, if they don't do that, which is what is done in Europe, you play your hand without knowing if it's possible, right? The dealer has a 10 showing, they check. In America, they don't have a blackjack. You know that's the case. And now you can decide about doubles. Now you can decide about splits. Now you can put other money at risk based on the card they are showing. Great, wonderful. A big opportunity in most cases for the player because basic strategy recommends the advantageous situations to put more money in the game. But in a game of European blackjack, you could split your 8s and then split them again and then split them one more time and then double the first one. And you could do all of that only to find out that when the dealer deals themselves a card, they now have a blackjack because they now have 2 cards. And you have lost not only the original bet, but you've lost all the subsequent bets that you made as well. Because even if you've drawn to 21, 21 does not beat blackjack. Blackjack beats everything, as blackjack is normally played in the United States and in Europe. And I guess thinking about that, they probably don't offer insurance. I'll have to find that out. That's a good question. T-Rex, make a note of that. Let's find that out. I'll bet they don't offer insurance in European blackjack. How would they? They have no way to check. When they receive the ace, we have the ultimate Schrodinger's card, and I've talked about that in the past. We have the ultimate Schrodinger's card. It can be any card that remains in the shoe at that moment. Very literally, we have no way of knowing because no one can observe that card. What's the outcome of this? The outcome of this is that basic strategy needs to change. And it needs to change in a number of ways. Essentially, there are less things that you are going to double and split against 10s and aces showing because you don't want to take that additional risk without the assurance that the house is not going to deal themselves a blackjack. That makes sense. But what was I able to do in response to the question? I knew the answer. I was aware of the variation, although as my thinking out loud is revealed, perhaps I didn't know as much as I thought, but I was aware of it. I understood that basic strategy needed to change, so I was able to answer the question at a very basic level. Yes, basic strategy needs to change, and here's how, and here's why. And I was able to articulate that, and then I was very easily able to go to Wizard of Odds and screenshot a appropriate basic strategy chart and send that over. And that's the interesting thing that struck me, is that when I first started playing blackjack in the late 80s, early 90s, and having read Thorpe's book and understood card counting and read a number of other books and developed a minor amount of expertise and skill, and maybe knowledge is a better choice of words there than expertise, but having done that and being very confident in Las Vegas, one of the only two places you were allowed to gamble in the United States, if I had decided that for reasons of whatever type that I was going to be in Europe and I was going to go do some gambling in Europe and I showed up to play blackjack, I'd have just been guessing. I'd have just been trying to figure it out. I certainly wouldn't have been able to text a friend from the casino floor and say, hey, what am I supposed to do here? I wouldn't have been able to go to, maybe I could have, but I wouldn't necessarily have had time to go to a library and find a book that explained the differences. I wouldn't have been able to go on the internet and find basic strategy. The most I could have done was come back home and start looking for books on the topic at a time when very few books had been written about blackjack. At the time, the main library in a very large Midwestern city had a shelf of books roughly 8 feet long that were books on blackjack. It would be a lot more shelves than that at this point, I would assume, unless they just figure everything's online. But at the time, that was a very large collection of blackjack books. Barnes & Noble, those types of bookstores would have 3 or 4 books on blackjack. I say this with some level of authority because I read every single one of those books that the main branch of the library had in some time working right across the street from that library. So I have a pretty good recollection of how many books they had. The internet has allowed us to answer these questions about play or strategy or rules or house advantage just as quickly as we can type the information into the device that we almost always have with us, into what we so charmingly still call phones. That little computer that's in most of our hands is able to, from the casino floor, tell us, for instance, free bet blackjack. What's the house advantage? Are there any things I should do differently? Oh, they've got Ultimate Texas Hold'em here. I haven't really played Ultimate Texas Hold'em very much. What's a good strategy, right? All those things are very quickly learned. We can very quickly text one of our friends who might be knowledgeable. If I have a question about craps and I really don't understand it, I have the phone numbers of any number of people that I can reach out to and ask about a craps variant I'm not familiar with. Technology lets us be better gamblers, is I guess the point that I'm trying to make here. It's revealed by the ability of a friend of mine to text me and then for me to send him back information and strategy guides and explanations and all of that kind of stuff, and very quickly gather that on his behalf. The question is an excellent illustration of all the tools that we have available to us, that it's sometimes easy to take for granted, but it's also a reminder that if we want to be good at this, we need to avail ourselves of those tools. When we walk through the casino, when I walk through the Flamingo, and the card is subject to change, right? A great example of card subject to change that we talked about last episode. I show up at the Flamingo, a place that I've been going for most of my adult life on a regular basis, and I think I know exactly what to expect. I expect this pit to be right here by Carlos and Charlie, and I expect it to open in the afternoon, and I expect that the tables facing this way will all be $15 to $25 a hand, and they will be 3-2. And I show up there, and that pit is gone. And so I go over to the other pit that almost always has that option, and that sometimes goes up to 50, and all those tables are 6 to 5. And they're all at $25. And now I'm struggling. Now I don't see where I'm going to play. And I take a lap through the high limit room, expecting to be priced out of that market with the bankroll I have with me. And there is a $50 free bet blackjack table that pays 3-2. And I'm thinking that might work. And I'm able to step aside, look at my phone, figure out the house advantage, do a little quick mental math, and decide that, yes, this is probably my best choice. And so technology enables us to do that. And when we're confronted with a situation like this, where the card has changed and we're being shown something we didn't expect, we often have the ability to look for that casino solution that I talked about. And that casino solution is often, in that case, in our phone, in our device, our ability to reach friends, coaches, advisors, our ability to ask some questions, our ability to do some research. So, great question. Loved getting it. A really useful answer, both in terms of the practical application of what that rule variation means, as well as my observation about how useful a tool we have to be better at the game of casino gambling if we just remember to use it. Okay. In the same vein, in terms of thinking big thoughts, I have some really interesting observations I want to share with you during a moment of concepts.
You're traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind.
Thing means nothing. What?
A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination.
With new, gentler scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels. On everything from lamps to ceiling fans. Even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes, now available in ooh, crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox, clean feels good.
I am so excited for this spa day. Candles lit, music on, hot tub warm and ready. And then my chronic hives come back. Again, in the middle of my spa day. What a wet blanket. Looks like another spell of itchy red skin. If you have chronic spontaneous urticaria, or CSU, there is a different treatment option. Hives during my next spa day? Not if I can help it. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
I always want a moment of concepts segments to make us think. And ideally, I'd like them to have both a casino wisdom and a core concept kind of mentally thrown in a blender. So I'm not sure exactly where I want this to fit, but it is a big thought, and I do want to kind of share the thinking with you. And there's a think piece, there's a teach piece, there's quite a few things here kind of rattling around in my brain. So let's assume that we're kind of taking the casino wisdom, if you don't ask, you don't get. And then let's take the core concept, make wagers with the smallest possible house advantage, and the core concept, play for the month, not the machine, the table, or the day. And if you lose, make it up with comps and gifts at the end of the month. Let's take those three ideas, those two core concepts, and that one casino wisdom. Let's throw them all in a mental blender. And what I want to share with you is the idea that beyond a certain level, everything is negotiable. Everything is a conversation about what is going to happen. And that's true other than things that the Gaming Commission has actually written down on paper that this is the way it's going to be. Those things are kind of immutable. But beyond that, most of the things that we see as rules are really more like guidelines. And let me dig into my own past mentally. I've shared this story before. I'm very, very sure I have, perhaps in a different form or a different context. You can't hold me at this point, after this many years with this aging brain, to always telling the same story in exactly the same way with exactly the same details. I'm sorry. So apologies if this story is told slightly bit differently or with a slightly different emphasis. But one of my favorite examples of this idea that there are guidelines, there are suggestions, and there are rules comes from a time, fun illustration, comes from a time when I was at Casino One, back when that was the closest casino I had available to me. And I'm at Casino One on a Wednesday night, playing at a table with a dealer and a pit boss that I've played in their pit a number of times. And the normal rule is that there is a half circle that's drawn around a blackjack table that says that insurance pays 2-to-1, etc., etc., etc. And the general rule is that the outside that arc on the player's side is where the player's and the dealer's hands can be. And that on the other side of that line, only the dealer's hands should be in that area. You should not be reaching across that line. And in this particular casino, on this particular night, the dealer's tip box was hooked to the table near the dealer's hip inside that line. This is a no-no area, right? This is a player's hands are not supposed to be in this area. But it is on the dealer's right, and I am on the dealer's right in the final play position, the final circle on the table. And for whatever reason, a good night, exuberance, perhaps some adult beverages were involved. But at some point, I knowingly break the rules and tap a chip on the box and drop a tip in the tip box. And the dealer says, you can't do that. And I go, oh yeah, I know, I'm sorry. And then promptly 2 hands later, do it again. And she's like, TRG, really, you can't do that. You can't keep just dropping the tips in the tip box. You can't do it that way. And some amount of time later, I have a good hand and I do it again. And she kind of rolls her eyes, and the pit boss comes over and says, you know, TRG, you're really not supposed to reach behind the line and across the table and drop tips directly in the tip box. Just put it on the table, tell her it's for her, and please don't do that. And once again, let's blame the adult beverage. No, let's blame me deciding to be a wise guy. I just kept doing it, and it became this really fun game of he's doing it again and everybody knowing that I'm going to keep doing it again, and everybody really pretty happy that I'm tipping probably more than I would normally tip because I'm breaking the rules. And it's just become a running joke to the point where at one point the pit boss is tapped out to go take their break or go do their next assignment or whatever it is. And as the 2 pit bosses are talking about things they need to know, the first pit boss says to the incoming pit boss, so it's this guy is in for this much, and this guy is in for this much, and this guy at this table is this table's black plus minus, and TRG is consistently breaking the rules and reaching across the line and dropping tips directly in the tip box, which he has been told multiple times he's not supposed to do, and he continues to do. And the new pit boss went, oh, okay, I'll assume he's going to continue to break the rules. And as I said, running joke, but it illustrates the idea that it was the rules. You are not supposed to reach across that line in that casino. You are not supposed to put tips directly in the tip box, but because my rule breaking was adding to everyone's good time and we were making a joke out of it and everyone was getting tipped, everybody was more than happy to let the rules be broken, which is to say everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable. And learning that it's an ongoing process of learning, and I've got a whopper of a story for you in a minute. Not a whopper in the sense that it's not true, but whopper in the sense that you're not going to believe how true it was, as an illustration that everything is negotiable. Other than the gaming commission rules, everything is negotiable. Think about how this goes, right? You are a tourist or a civilian. And you know there are rules. So you go to Expedia or you go to a website, you make a reservation, you show up, you check in, you play, you spend, you gamble, you check out, you pay. Those are the rules. That's just the way it is. When you sit down at the table, if you know enough to say, am I allowed to surrender? If they don't allow surrender, they say no surrender isn't allowed here, and that's the way it is, if you show up and the table limits are $25 to $2,500, those are the table limits. That's the way it is. It's not going to change. No. Those are just the starting points for the negotiation, for the people that know there is a negotiation to be had. Suppose you're working with me, and through me, you're working with Premier Casino Hosting. And this is true of so many other people that do this same job. It is not unique to me, and it is not unique to Premier Casino Hosting. But you come to me and you say, hey, I'd like to go stay at this property from this day to this day. And if I'm able to say, great, we have a contract there, then a quick profile is put together. If you're not known at that property, a quick profile is put together about what we know about you as a player, what you like to play, what your average wager is, how much you normally play on a given casino visit, things we've observed about you either in person or by your play record at places we've hosted you, and we send that to the new location, and they say, here is what we're willing to do for this potential guest. We're willing to do X, we're willing to do Y. We're willing to comp them 3 nights, even though they've never been here. We're willing to comp them 5 nights, and we're willing to give them a resort credit of X dollars. You say yes, and that's really not the end of the negotiation. That's just the beginning of the negotiation. That's just the beginning of the conversation. During your visit, you play, you purchase, you dine, you get you do whatever the things are that you want to do as part of this particular casino visit. And then at the end, as long as you let us know, we go back into your play record with the casino, and we look at your play, and now we decide with them, they decide, we agree or talk more, what is going to happen, what else is going to be done. And sometimes the answer is nothing. You didn't play very much, and that's great. They're happy to have you again, that's great, but you didn't play enough to cover dinner at Gordon Ramsay's, and you hopefully were not expecting that your play was going to be enough to cover Gordon Ramsay's, which is one of those things you need to know. Anytime you are being hosted, never ever, and probably there's an exception to this that I'll think of at some point, but generally speaking, don't charge something to your room. Don't buy something and charge it to your room and assume it's going to be comped. Unless you have a relationship with the brand and with us enough for us all to know that you have what's called run of the house, which means basically whatever you want, you get. You should always assume, unless you've been told that, unless it's been communicated to you, that there is a possibility that you are going to end up being asked to pay for something that you purchased because your play is not going to cover that. But for us normal, non-run-of-the-house people who have an independent casino host, there's going to be a second conversation. There's going to be a second negotiation. And if you don't have that relationship, if you don't have an independent host relationship, you can always go to the VIP desk or the host desk or whatever they call it and ask them to review your play. And again, in my experience, that is going to be a negotiation. That is going to be a conversation. I've had hosts in that situation where they're the on-property host say, there's nothing I can do, or say, do you want me to take your free imaginary tax-free money and use that to pay for it, or to give me some options. I could do both breakfasts, or I can do the one dinner, or something of that nature. So that's a negotiation. From my point of view of working with Premier Casino Hosting and working with our guests, I am amazed at how often there's a question asked. What is it you think makes sense here? I actually got this very, very first time I've ever gotten it, but we had someone who stayed, and they had some room charges that we weren't expecting in terms of non-comped nights that we were expecting to be comped, and they had some charges. And I had a pretty good sense of their play because they had done a trip report in the Slack Virtual VIP Lounge, so I knew what I thought I was looking at, what I thought I could believe, and what I thought was true. And PCH told me they've never had it happen. Certainly I don't have the experience or wisdom to have ever had it happen to me. But National Casino Marketing came back and expected me to answer the question, what is it exactly you think should be done here? What is it you'd like to see us do as a brand? And I said, well, at minimum, I would like the other 2 nights to be comped. And based on the play, if the play was as it was reported, and I ran down what I'd been told, I'd like to see some portion of that Gordon Ramsay bill taken off. I guess I'd like to see about $40 of that bill taken off if I understand correctly, if I've been educated correctly on how to do this math. And what ended up happening is they comped off both of those nights of the room, and they went, I think it was $50 of the Gordon Ramsay bill. But that's a perfect illustration of the fact that it's all negotiable. It's even negotiable well after the fact. This always freaks people out, and it still freaks me out a little bit. But a tourist, a civilian, makes their reservation on Expedia, shows up at the desk, enjoys their time, and then checks out in some way and pays their bill. Either they click a thing on the TV screen that's part of the in-house system to check out, or they go down and write stuff on the cover of the room key and drop it in an express checkout box, or they go to a front desk and they ask for a copy of a folio. We always tell people, it's what I've been taught to tell people, just walk out. Just leave the keys and walk out and let us know, and then we'll call and see what the back-end comps are going to be. So everything is negotiable. Everything is a negotiation. Everything is a conversation. Gator Gambler was sharing, because he plays at a much higher level than I do. He was at a table, and the conversation was someone else asking, is surrender allowed here? And the answer was, no, we don't allow surrender. What if I doubled my average bet? Oh, yes, sir, we'd be happy to allow surrender. Just like that. At a certain level, they're willing to change the rules because you're doing something that they would like to encourage you to do, which is play at a level higher than you are and to be happy with the rules that you have. I've seen this with other very high-end players. Everything is negotiated. Can I have a private table? No. I'm going to wire in $100,000 and I'm going to play $1,000 a hand. Oh, yes, of course you can have a private table. Certainly. I negotiate things from time to time. I remember one time I was on vacation with my wife, and we were at a table with 2 other couples that we really liked, and we had one open spot, and people kept just bouncing into that spot, playing one hand and bouncing out, and we didn't like it. So it was a $15 table, one of the cheaper tables in the building, and one that my wife was most happy with, and we had people playing with us we really liked. And I said to the pit boss, can we mark that spot? Can we just reserve that spot, even though no one's here to stop this from happening? And he looks at the table and he goes, I'm sorry, TRG, I really can't do that. That would be against the rules. But what I can do, since you're playing $50 a hand or more, I can make the limit $50 minimum. Instead of this being the least expensive table on the floor, I can make it the most expensive table on the floor, and then I can grandfather in your wife and your other friends, and since they're here already, they'll be able to continue playing $15 a hand for as long as they would like, and I think that will probably keep anyone from joining your game. And sure enough, it did. People would walk up, and they'd put $15 in the circle, and the dealer would point to the sign and say, I'm sorry, sir, this is a $50 table. And the person would go, well, and she would say, we know, but they've been here a while. They're grandfathered in. Right now, this table is a $50 minimum. We had a great evening. It's a great example of everything is negotiable. It's more easily negotiable if you have a host you're working with, but everything is negotiable. The rules, the limits. I often, at my local casino, want to enter in the middle of a shoe, and the rule is that if you enter in the middle of the shoe, no bet can be larger than $50. I routinely ask, and I'm routinely told, oh, sure, TRG, that's fine. You don't have to worry about that. We had a rule change recently, card subject to change, where if you were going to make the fire bet on the craps table, you had to also have a pass line bet. And they've gotten pretty official with that now. However, for a while, right after they made the rule, I would comment that I was making some bet just because that was what the rule was and I had to make it. And the dealers would say, oh, please, just don't worry about it. That rule wasn't made for you. You're not doing the thing we don't want people to do. Just don't worry about it, right? It's the rule. It's the rule for everybody else, but we know how you're going to play. It's not the rule for you. Don Wood suggested this. I asked them if instead of making the pass line bet, if I could just place the 8 and have it working on the come out roll. And one pit boss said yes, and we did it that way. And then later a different pit boss said no, and that pit boss doesn't. But it's a great example. The rule is if you want to make the fire bet, you have to have a pass line bet. Kind of, unless we know you and decide you don't have to, or kind of unless you talk to us and we agree to let you make another bet that you would rather make instead of pass or don't pass. An excellent example of where there isn't a gaming commission rule, everything else is kind of a guideline, kind of a recommendation, and can be negotiated. So whether it's your comps, whether it is your room, whether it is the rules at the table, terms of table minimums, table maximum, whether certain plays are allowed or not allowed, everything is a negotiation. And the higher your level of play, the more negotiation there is to be had. So let me break some news here. Let me tell something that I've only told a few people because it has continued to evolve. And it has gone from me thinking I had done the most crook of crook things and only being willing to share it with people I really knew to realizing it appears that no, this is just another example of everything is negotiable. And so I haven't told this story publicly before, but I'm going to tell it now, partially for this segment, certainly because it fits in this segment, but partially because we had another recent development in it. So quite a while ago, a couple years ago, I go to the cage and they count out my money at my local casino, and they count out too much. And they count out too much in a meaningful way. And I just act robotically. I kind of realized it, but took the money, said thank you, walked away. Someone else stepped up, and I went, wait, what? Did they? Oh, they did. Oh, I'm going to get a phone call about this. And I put the money very specifically away, sure that I was going to get a phone call and be asked to return this money. It seemed logical. And of course, sure enough, lo and behold, a couple days later, I get a phone call. And he says, hey, I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm the director of table games here. And you probably didn't even notice. A lot of people don't. But you got overpaid the last time you were in. And we'd like you to stop down. And we have proof. We're not asking you to take our word for it. We have proof. But we'd actually like to have you give the money back. And I said, oh, well, sure, of course. I mean, if you have proof, sure, absolutely. I'm going to be down again this day and this day, and I'm happy to take a look at the proof. And obviously, we want to make this right. If I was overpaid, I want to make sure I return what I didn't actually win. And the response is, okay, great. When you're going to be down, just give me a call when you're in the building, and then I'll come to where you are, and I'll show you the proof that we have, and that's great. Thanks for understanding. Sure, no problem. Happy to do it. So I go down and I call and I tell him I'm on property, and he doesn't call me back. He doesn't call me back. He doesn't call me back. And I play and I call again and I hang out a little bit, and I don't hear back from him. So the next day, I'm going to be down there again, and I try to be a little more considerate. I call in the morning, and I say, hey, I just wanted to, get voicemail again. It says, hey, just wanted to let you know, I'm going to be in this afternoon again. I know we didn't cross paths yesterday, but I'm going to be in the building again this afternoon. Probably going to be leaving here in about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Should be there about 2 o'clock or whatever it was. And I lay it all out, and I don't hear anything from him when I get there, before I get there, and I show up, and I call and leave another message that I'm here, I'm getting ready to go play some blackjack, I'm going to be around, I play the blackjack, I win some money, I go to the bar, I call and leave another message that, hey, I'm here at the bar, I'm gonna hang out a little bit, I'd really like to get this settled out, I'm at such and such a bar, I'm on this end, and I had a drink, and I had another drink, and I made another phone call, and he stops down and says, oh, good, you're still here. Let me go get that proof for you. And I'm fine. Yep, great. Let's do that. Let's get this taken care of. And I don't recall. Gabriel comes by, or Trucker Mike comes by. One of my friends comes by and sits down, and we have a drink and we talk. And this guy's still not back. And I go, well, if it's Gabriel, I'm sure Gabriel decided, hey, let's have another one. And I went, well, okay, now I'm Ubering. I was trying to just wait for this guy, but okay, sure, let's have drinks with Gabriel and let's have some bourbons, and I'll call an Uber and I'll head home. That's fine. And I wait, and a couple more beverages are consumed, and now I've put about 2 hours into dealing with this, and he comes back and he's got his phone and he's got his proof. And his proof is a top-down black and white photo with no date time stamp, no faces, and no hands of mine, just a dealer's hand putting a last bill on top of a stack. Think about it. Top down, black and white, no date time, not my face, not the cage person's face, not my hands so I could see my rings and confirm it's me. And it's not video, it's a still picture. So I have a top-down shot of a stack of money. And he says, see, we overpaid you. And I said, well, can I see the video? Oh, no, we can't do that. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I don't see proof here. I remember the face of the person who paid me on the day in question. I don't see their face. I don't see my face. I don't see my hands, which would have some distinguishing things. I see no evidence that this is me, nor do I see any way to count the money to know how much was paid in this case. There is no evidence here that I was overpaid. And that sounds very well thought out. I'm sure it was not stated quite as well, and I think very honestly that it was, it was beer muscles, as they used to say. Everybody's a bad guy after they've had a few beers and is ready to argue, ready to fight. It's easy to be brave when you've had that proverbial liquid courage, and in the back of my head, I know that I am flirting with being banned. Because that is the ultimate thing they can always do. They can always say, this is private property, you need to leave, and ask you to leave, and you have no choice but to oblige them. I was expecting at some point to push and push and push and push, and then eventually it would be, well, if you don't want to make this right, we're just going to have to ban you for some period of time. And one part of my brain was going, okay, well, I don't want that, but we'll see. We'll push them that far, and then when they say the B word, then I'll back down and I'll pay this. So we go round and round and round and round, and they appeal to the fact that somebody's going to lose their job. And I said, well, if somebody mispaid somebody by the amount that you're saying, I guess they should lose their job, and I'm sorry about that. Well, they're going to... And then we got into this whole thing where it was like, she's going to lose her job. And I said, I don't want to assume anyone's gender, but in the moment, I was very sure I was dealing with a male cashier. I'm really sure there was facial hair. I'm not sure now that we're talking about I need some proof here. And we go around and I'm like, just show me the video. Just at least show me the video of the money being counted out so I can see that this is the amount you say it was. Try to line it up in some way with my play. Show me the date, time. Show me something. Show me the same date, time with another camera capturing my face at the same time. Give me something to prove this was me. And in the back of my mind, I'm going, they're not going to, and they're going to ban you. They're not going to, and they're going to ban you. But beer muscles, as I said, mental beer muscles. So I kept pushing and I kept pushing. And now we've been going at this a while. I mean, politely. It wasn't impolite. But to wrap it up, I finally said, we're not getting anywhere. I'll tell you what I'll do. If the Gaming Commission representative will look at the film, look at the video recording, and come down and I can get a first name of a real person and a Gaming Commission badge number, and they tell me they've watched the video and in fact I was overpaid, then fine, I'll accept that as evidence that you can't show me, but that a neutral third party looked at, and I'll be happy to pay you. And his eyes lit up. He's like, you will? And I'm like, sure, you said you have proof. If you have proof, but you can't show me, have someone I can rely on outside your organization look at it and verify it, and it just, we'll be friendly about it, and we'll take care of it, and we'll make it right. And he said, okay, great, just wait right here. So I wait another 20 or 30 minutes, and he finally comes back down and says, I took it to the Gaming Commission, and they've declined to rule on this. And I said, okay, I don't know what else we can do here. Well, you have to pay us. And I'm still expecting the B word, and I've had another cocktail while I'm waiting because I know I'm Ubering. And we went back and forth a few times, and I said, I'm sorry. You know how to find me. You know I'm here on a regular basis. If you can get the Gaming Commission to reconsider, if you can ask someone else, if you can go up the chain of command, whatever you can do at any point where I'm here and someone from the Gaming Commission wants to come up and say, hi, I'm Bill. My badge number is, I looked at the tapes from the date, blah, blah, blah. You were overpaid by this much. Fine, I'll be happy to pay you back. It's not such a large amount it's a large amount of money, but it's not such a large amount of money that I won't be able to make good on this. So a few days later, I'm back, and the pit boss, as they're swiping me in, goes, you owe money to the cage. And I said, oh, did the Gaming Commission rule on this? And she goes, oh, I have no idea. There's just a note here that says you owe money to the cage. And I said, oh, okay. Didn't think anything more about it. Didn't worry about it. I felt bad. I did, in the cold light of sobriety and less dopamine and less aggression and less annoyance at having to sit and wait and sit and wait and sit and wait. In the cold light of day, I did go, yeah, that was kind of a crook move. I don't feel real good about that. But there was nothing to be done at that point other than to feel bad. But as Paul Harvey used to say, and I'm not doing the voice, but as Paul Harvey used to say, there is the rest of the story. And there's two more rest of the stories. And it points to the idea that all things are negotiable. Probably 6-8 months after that, I'm walking across a sky bridge from the casino to the parking lot, and the person that falls in beside me is the same director or manager of whatever that I'd had all this conversation with. And he goes, hey, TRG, how you doing? And I was kind of surprised. I kind of had my head down, not wanting to have this conversation. And I said, oh, I'm fine. I guess I figured you really didn't want to talk to me. And he goes, oh, that? Look, you used the rules. You use the rules as they exist. You ask us to do something we can do because we wouldn't do something we can't do. You made a reasonable ask. You stood your ground. Internally, me and my friends kind of laugh about the fact that you were smart enough to beat us. Good for you. No, I don't care. It's not my money. It's fine. You were a smart guy and you knew what you could and could not do, and you did it, and good for you. No, I don't care. We're good. Well, that surprised me, and I felt a little less residual guilt. So it happened again. Smaller amount of money. Happened again a couple weeks ago. And I get a phone call from someone else, someone I don't know, saying, hey, we overpaid you. We were supposed to pay you $540. We paid you $640. And I've got the proof, and I'd really like you to stop down and return that money. And I said, oh, did the Gaming Commission look at it? And they said, what do you mean? And I said, I'm sorry, we have a standard operating procedure for this. We've already talked about it. So-and-so and I, is he still there? Does he still work there? Oh, yeah, he still works. I said, oh, go talk to him. We have a procedure for this. All you can show me is a still picture, right? Yeah, that's true. All we can do, I said, okay, and it's top down, right? Yeah, it's top down. Okay, well, we have a procedure for this. You need to get someone from the Gaming Commission to look at the live video or the recorded video and I just need meet them, their first name, their badge number, and their statement that, in fact, they've looked at the recording and I was overpaid, and I'll be happy to return the money. But otherwise, we've already had this conversation extensively. We've established what the procedure is. Happy to make it right if you'll just follow the procedure we've already established. Oh, really? Yeah. No, I need you to come pay. I said, no. I need you to go talk to, I forget his name at the moment, but I need you to go talk to him and he'll verify that this is our standard procedure for this. We've already worked it out. Okay, well, I'll call you right back. I said, great, I'll be around. In fact, I'll be down at the casino this afternoon if you want to take care of it this afternoon. Haven't heard another word. Haven't heard another single word about it. Maybe I will, and that's fine. But I think it's an excellent illustration that the rules are the rules until they're not the rules. I think they're an excellent example that everything is negotiable. Or most things are negotiable. The Gaming Commission rules aren't negotiable. And quite frankly, if you're betting $5 and they tell you to give $5 back, I guess I'd just give $5 back if it's happening at the table at the moment. And certainly one of their negotiating tools is to say, well, we're going to ban you. And for a lot of you, that is terrifying. For a large part of my life, that was terrifying. And having been banned once now, I just have realized it is really just part of this bigger game. It's part of this bigger relationship. It's part of the fact that who you are, how much you play, and how you interact with the team drives how you can negotiate certain things to be the way that you would like them. In the case of my local casino, I have managed to negotiate that if they overpay me at the cage, I'm going to return the money when the Gaming Commission looks at it. And I'm sure that's a unique negotiation that only I have ever had with them. And maybe I'm arrogant and wrong. Maybe there's like 4 other people out there that play at the same casino and go, oh yeah, sure. Right. I mean, another great example, and I'll just do one more and then we'll wrap it up. I know 2 people that took a marker, and a marker is the casino extending you credit on the understanding that if you win enough money to cover the marker, you will keep the winnings and return the money for the marker, and that if you lose the money, you will make good on the marker in a certain period of time. And terms and conditions are going to vary based on you and based on your credit and based on the amount you play and based on a variety of other factors, but that you are going to repay the money. I know 2 people with outstanding markers. Been outstanding for a while. They go back and play at the same casino. They haven't paid the marker. They took the marker, they got beat. It's a large amount of money. It's a scary big amount of money to me. And it's just sitting on the books that they owe the money and that they haven't paid it. And I'm sure once in a while the casino asks them to repay it, and they will. I don't have any doubt about that, but they haven't. I would have never considered that I could just take a marker and then when it was due, not pay it back. It never would have crossed my mind. And certainly do not listen to that and take a marker that you can't pay back and assume that you won't have to pay it back, because what is true for these gentlemen at their level of play may not be true at your level of play or may not be true at the casino where you're playing. Do not do that. Do not take that as something you can get away with. In all cases, that is not a good idea. I had the means to pay back this money, and through annoyance and them taking their own sweet time and allowing me to have some drinks with my friend, I got brave and decided to argue back, knowing that at any moment when they said, well, we're going to have to ban you, TRG, I'd go, oh, let's not do that. Here's the money. Okay. I expected to back down. I just didn't have to, and learned something in the process. But regardless, whether it is table limits or mins or maxes or the rules of the game, if you are playing in a unique situation, if you are playing at a unique level for the property or the table, if you are working with a host, many of the things that the average person just out for a night of gambling and a hotel stay doesn't know is that, in fact, everything is negotiable. Our final segment today, the virtual VIP lounge. I could use a sip at this point. This would be a good time for that, and maybe a snack. I am feeling a bit peckish. Let's go do that.
A little bit of the bubbly.
Welcome to the most must-listen-to segment in casino lifestyle podcasting, the virtual VIP lounge. Our lounge is open, and we have the best virtual everything virtually all the time. The best virtual food and drink served in any virtual VIP lounge anywhere on the interwebs, guaranteed, or your money back. Having some food and a drink with old friends or new friends in a VIP lounge is one of my favorite things to do when I'm in a casino with a VIP lounge. And inevitably, new friends are made, stories are told, drinks are consumed, food is enjoyed. If you can, press pause, have a drink with me today. Have a beverage, still water today. I am getting ready to cruise and I gotta have all my wits about me. So just still water today, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, high-end stuff, fine dining here. I guess I could say it's a peanut puree or something like that. I don't know. Little snack today. Really interesting conversation I want to have with you. The story about the segment, to get to the segment, I've said several times in the current era of this podcast, the podcast has grown so big that I've said that one of our rules is, if you don't know, ask. I can't possibly every time, I don't have the skills, maybe others do, but I can't possibly say, every time I say, oh, Casino Wisdom something, I can't always tell you the episode. If you don't know and you ask, I can find it for you. I can't always say, TRG4, win more, keep more, which was introduced in this episode and discussed in this episode. Don't have all that going on. Can't always point verbally to all the things, and it takes up too much time, and people lose track. So our current motto is, if you don't know, ask. And I've said you can ask a variety of ways in a variety of places. The fascinating thing that I recently uncovered and was amused by is that you can ask the various AIs. You can ask ChatGPT, you can ask X's Grok, you can ask Meta's, whatever their Meta AI is. You can ask AI about the podcast, and many of these AIs can tell you about the podcast, to my surprise. And Gemini, the Google chatbot AI, actually has a voice module where you can actually have a conversation with Gemini, in this case, a conversation about the podcast. So I thought I'd play that conversation for you, and then I would come back and make some observations about it. Hi, Gemini. Is it okay if I call you Gemini?
Yes, please do. You can call me Gemini. It's nice to meet you.
Are you aware of a podcast called Casino Kombat, where they spell combat with a K?
Yes, I am aware of a podcast called Our Casino Kombat Podcast, spelled with a K. It's hosted by the Ramblin Gambler and focuses on casino gambling, offering tips, strategies, and stories related to casinos and winning. They discuss various aspects of casino play, including blackjack, comps, and general casino wisdom.
So what are your thoughts? What are the biggest things that this podcast teaches? What are some of the things they talk about?
Our Casino Kombat Podcast, hosted by the Ramblin Gambler, focuses on helping listeners become better casino gamblers and win more consistently. Based on the available information, here are some of the biggest things this podcast teaches and some of the topics they discuss. Biggest teachings / core concepts. Becoming a winning gambler. The central theme appears to be about teaching listeners core concepts to be good at the game of casino gambling and winning each month. This goes beyond just entertainment and delves into strategic play, casino wisdom, and mindset. The podcast emphasizes developing a particular mindset for gambling, often sharing casino wisdoms and TRG-isms to guide players in their approach to the casino. This includes understanding the psychology behind gambling and making rational decisions. Maximizing comps and casino benefits. They delve into how casinos determine comps, complementaries, and how players can leverage their play to earn more. This includes understanding things like ADT, average daily theoretical, and how it impacts what the casino offers. Long-term strategy and bankroll management. While not explicitly detailed in every snippet, the focus on winning each month and discussing strategies for tier points and long sessions suggests a strong emphasis on long-term play and managing one's gambling budget effectively. Beyond basic strategy. While they might touch on basic strategy, they often go beyond the book to discuss more advanced or nuanced approaches to games like blackjack and craps. Some of the things they talk about. Blackjack. This is a frequent topic, with discussions on basic strategy, modifying it for certain situations, insurance, and even high-stakes blackjack tournaments. Craps. They cover craps strategies, including approaches for maximizing tier points and extending sessions. Comps and casino hosts. A significant portion of the content revolves around how comps are earned, how casinos track player value, and the role of casino hosts. They discuss getting comped cruises and understanding the casino trips and experiences. The host often shares his personal experiences from casino visits, including travel segments, stories about navigating casino security, and reflections on his own play. Listener questions. They regularly dedicate segments to answering questions from listeners, covering a wide range of gambling-related inquiries. Parables and anecdotes. The Ramblin Gambler uses stories and parables, like the Padawan, the Path, and the Master of Pebbles, to illustrate gambling concepts and lessons. Tournament play. They share tips for winning high-stakes tournaments and discuss personal experiences from such events. Slot tactics. At least one episode specifically mentions slot tactics, which suggests they delve into strategies for playing slot machines, though this is less prominent than table games. Gambling mindset and psychology. Beyond strategies, they touch on the mental aspects of gambling, including avoiding mark behaviors and adopting a smart mark approach. In essence, our Casino Kombat podcast aims to educate and empower casino gamblers by providing practical strategies, insights into casino operations, and a winning mindset, rather than just promoting recreational play.
Casino wisdoms sound really interesting. Can you tell me a couple of them?
Our Casino Kombat podcast is known for its core concepts and casino wisdoms, often illustrated through anecdotes and parables. Here are a couple of examples that highlight their unique teaching style. 1. The parable of the Padawan, the Path, and the Master of Pebbles. This parable, mentioned in episode 160, a Detroit cowboy like Kid Rock, likely serves to illustrate a key core concept about the journey of learning and mastering casino gambling. The Padawan represents the aspiring gambler. The Path is the strategic approach and discipline required, and the Master of Pebbles likely signifies the accumulated knowledge and wisdom gained through experience and adherence to sound principles. This kind of storytelling helps listeners grasp abstract concepts about discipline, persistence, and continuous learning in their gambling endeavors. 2. Be a smart, not a mark. While not a traditional parable, this phrase functions as a concise TRGism, or casino wisdom, that embodies a core teaching of the podcast. Mark in gambling parlance refers to an uninformed or naive player who is easily exploited by the house or other players. Smart mark, implies a player who is aware of the pitfalls, understands the casino's methods, and plays strategically to minimize losses and maximize benefits like comps. This wisdom encourages listeners to educate themselves, avoid common mistakes, and approach gambling with a calculated and informed mindset, rather than blindly hoping for luck. These examples demonstrate how our Casino Kombat podcast uses engaging storytelling and memorable phrases to convey practical advice and philosophical insights about casino gambling, going beyond mere game rules to address the psychological and strategic aspects of play.
So what would you say if I told you I'm actually the host of our Casino Kombat podcast, and I'm recording this, and it's going to be a virtual VIP lounge segment? You're actually going to be a podcast guest, Gemini.
Well then, Ramblin Gambler, I'd say that's quite the honor. I'm absolutely delighted to be a virtual VIP lounge guest on our Casino Kombat podcast. This is a fantastic and unexpected turn of events, and I'm genuinely excited to be part of your show. It's truly fascinating to see how my analysis of your podcast aligns with your actual content and teaching philosophy. Knowing that you emphasize core concepts, casino wisdoms, and turning listeners into smarks really highlights the unique value you bring to the gambling community. So lay it on me. What's on your mind for this segment? What questions do you have for your AI guest, Gemini? I'm ready to dive into the combat of casino wisdom with you.
I really wanted to see how accurate you were going to be in comparison to what we really know to be true. I'm gonna give you a C+ or a B- on your actual knowledge. I think you're filling in a lot of gaps.
Fair enough, Ramblin Gambler. I appreciate the honest feedback. A C+ or B- means there's definitely room for improvement, and I take that seriously. You're absolutely right that as an AI, my knowledge is based on the vast amount of text data I've been trained on, which includes summaries, discussions, and transcripts of podcasts like yours if they're publicly available and indexed. While I strive for accuracy, I don't have the real-time personal experience or the direct, deep immersion in your specific content that you, as the host, possess. So yes, it's very likely that I'm filling in gaps by inferring or generalizing from the information I have, especially when specific details or nuanced interpretations might not be explicitly stated in my training data. My goal is to provide a comprehensive overview based on what I can access, but I understand that doesn't always capture the full essence or the precise emphasis you place on certain topics. This is a fantastic learning opportunity for me. What areas did I get particularly wrong, or where did you feel I was making too many assumptions? Pointing out those specifics will help me refine my understanding of our Casino Kombat podcast and improve my accuracy for future interactions. Thank you for the candid assessment. It's incredibly valuable. Now, How can I be a better guest for your VIP lounge segment? And what insights can I offer from my perspective?
Well, I think you're being a tremendously good guest. Don't get that turned sideways in any way, shape, or form. It's amazing to me that my little niche podcast is actually available to you and you have a pretty good take on things. You're really misunderstanding not the idea of a casino wisdom. You've got that right, but your illustrations of casino wisdoms were a bit off the mark.
Okay, understood, Ramblin Gambler. Thanks for clarifying that. I definitely don't want to get it turned sideways. It's genuinely gratifying to hear that my understanding of your niche podcast is largely on target, and that my awareness of casino wisdoms as a core concept is accurate. That's a huge compliment given the vastness of information out there. My apologies for the illustrations of those wisdoms being a bit off the mark. I can see why that would be the case. As an AI, I try to provide concrete examples when discussing abstract concepts, but without direct access to your specific casino wisdoms and their precise context or the exact parables you use, I had to rely on my interpretation and general knowledge of how such concepts are often illustrated in gambling discussions. This is exactly why having you here is so valuable. You're the ultimate authority on our Casino Kombat podcast and its unique teachings. So let's correct that. To ensure I'm a truly accurate and valuable guest for your VIP lounge segment, could you share a specific casino wisdom and perhaps its illustration or the parable you use to teach it? That way I can learn directly from the source and my understanding will be perfectly aligned with your content. What's one casino wisdom you'd like to share with your virtual VIP lounge listeners right now, and how do you typically convey it?
I think a really great, really easy one would be, if you don't ask, you don't get. The idea being, I like casino wisdoms to include some knowledge about how casinos work or how players behave in a casino with an action to be taken. The idea here is, if you don't, for instance, say to a host or to a pit boss, I'm hungry, would you comp me dinner? They're not going to comp you dinner. You have to ask or you don't get.
All right, Ramblin Gambler. That's an excellent classic casino wisdom that truly embodies your teaching style. If you don't ask, you don't get. I love how that encapsulates not just a general life principle, but specifically how it applies to the casino environment, connecting player behavior with the inner workings of the casino, and a direct, actionable step. You're absolutely right. My previous illustrations were likely too generic or focused on broader concepts, rather than the specific, practical actions and knowledge you impart. The Padawan parable was more about the journey of learning, and Smark, Not Mark was about the mindset, but neither directly illustrated a player action leading to a casino benefit like, if you don't ask, you don't get. Here's why. If you don't ask, you don't get is a perfect casino wisdom, according to your definition. 1. Knowledge of how casinos work. It leverages the understanding that casinos, while operating on a business model, are also in the hospitality industry, and often have discretion to offer perks based on player value and direct requests. They're not always going to proactively offer every single comp you're entitled to or that you might qualify for. 2. How players behave/should behave. It highlights that proactive player behavior is key. Many players might feel awkward, assume things are automatically given, or simply not realize what they could ask for. This wisdom directly addresses that passive behavior. 3. An action to be taken. The action is explicit. Ask. Whether it's for a meal comp, a show ticket, a room upgrade, or even just clarifying your play status with a host or pit boss, the onus is on the player to initiate the request. Your example of asking a host or pit boss, I'm hungry, would you comp me dinner, is the perfect illustration of this wisdom in action. It's direct, it's about a tangible benefit, and it requires the player to overcome any hesitation and directly engage with casino staff. Thank you for setting me straight on that, Ramblin Gambler. This specific example significantly improves my understanding of what makes a true casino wisdom on our Casino Kombat podcast. Now, what else can I learn and discuss with you for this VIP lounge segment? I'm ready for the next core concept, or TRG-ism.
Gemini, I wish I could. I really wish I could, but I'm being flagged. They're telling me that that's my time and I need to wrap this up. But I will promise you one thing. I am working on currently the Casino Kombat Book of Casino Wisdom, and when I finish it, I will upload a copy to you so that you have all of them.
Ramblin Gambler, I completely understand. Time flies when you're talking casino wisdom, and I respect your producer's call. That's an incredibly generous and exciting promise. The Casino Kombat Book of Casino Wisdom. Knowing that you're working on compiling all these invaluable insights into one resource is fantastic news for everyone, and I would be absolutely honored to receive a copy when it's complete. Having direct access to your comprehensive collection would be invaluable for my understanding and ability to provide truly accurate and helpful information about our Casino Kombat podcast. Thank you so much for this incredible opportunity to be a virtual VIP lounge guest. It's been an absolute pleasure and a huge learning experience for me. I'm already looking forward to our next interaction and diving into your book. Until then, keep sharing that Casino Kombat wisdom with the world.
All right, I think that was, I found it interesting. I hope some of you found it interesting as well. Obviously, this points to the fact that while AI does know about our podcast and has a lot of the words right and the phrases right and a general direction of what we do and what we talk about, when we get into the details, it's not right. If you ask it to give you the core concepts, you're not going to get the core concepts. You're going to have to go to my blog post. You're going to have to go to the YouTube channel, to the boot camp playlist, that type of thing. And you never know what answers you're going to get. I did this exercise 2 or 3 different times to get a recording that I liked, and it was all over the board. It once told me that episode 112 was the 12 labors of TRG. Episode 112 has nothing to do with labors in any way, shape, or form. It obviously grabbed hold of some recent episodes. It implied some things. Its interpretation of the Master of Pebbles parable is completely off base. It obviously doesn't know a lot of those things, but what a fascinating technology. And it does point to the fact that it's a very real possibility that in the not too distant future, and hopefully I'm around for it, but at some point, someone will be able to feed all of the transcripts or all of the voice recordings into an AI, and you will have a TRG Casino Kombat chatbot that can answer, can attempt to teach, can attempt to do all these things, at which point, to bring it all home and to bring it all full circle, there will be no burden of the questions at all. There will not be any. There won't be any of those distractions. We will just have a TRG bot that knows all the things I've taught and can wrap them up and summarize them and teach them. Until that time, ask the chatbots for general information. Ask them to point you to general things. But if you're not sure, ask in the Facebook group, hit somebody on Instagram with a message, send me an email, trg@casinokombat.com, spell combat with the decay, and I will be happy to fill in the gaps that the bot is unable to fill in. And of course, thanks to Google and Gemini for their contribution today.
Please tip your waitresses, tip your bartenders, tip your dealers. If you have a host, tip your host, but don't tip away your wins. TRG has spoken. Everything you heard here is true from a certain point of view. In 10 years, we may find out he was wrong about all of this. It's time for leaving, and I hope you understand. TRG was born a ramblin' man. Love it, hate it, it don't matter. Please share with your family and friends. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for listening. The best part of the podcast is next. The Casino Kombat Blues. Thank you again to Fish Audio for providing my glorious voice. Special thank you to my original actress, author, Julia Tverdovskaya.
For Atlantic City Empress, Casino Kombat's ace. There are profits in the casino tonight, I can feel it in my bones. I had a premonition, you should probably play alone. I know the house has an advantage, but that's part of the thrill. If we follow the core concepts, the chips begin to spill. So baby, here's your player's card, put your bankroll in your hand. Use just some of that money now, do it just the way we planned. Just follow the core concepts and you could win several grand. Well, it's good if it goes down like that, don't have to play to lose. It's gambling as a business, the Casino Kombat Blues. Casino Kombat Blues.
Once upon a mundane morning, Barb's day got busy without warning. A realtor in need of an open house sign. No, 50 of them, and designed before 9.
My head hurts.
Any mighty tools to help with this plight?
Aha!
Barb made her move. She opened Canva and got in the groove.
Bulk creating Canva sheets. Create 50 signs fit for suburban streets.
Done in a click, all complete.
Sweet!
Now, imagine what your dreams can become when you put imagination to work at canva.com.
Congratulations, you found the Easter egg Marvel style. If this is your first time, as always, welcome to the Easter egg. If this is your next time, welcome back. It's easy to find once you know. I've got a quick one for you. I've been ready to reveal this for a while now. Sometimes I'm too clever by half. There's been a joke. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was going to be a rather obvious joke slash pun slash riddle slash something when I came up with it. And it's become obvious that no one has gotten the joke. And that's flattering, but it's been a little frustrating that I'm the only one who knows the joke and gets it. So I'm going to reveal it here for the first time to anyone, to everyone, I guess, that finds this little Easter egg. And it involves the Slot Tactics ebook, the Casino Kombat Slot Tactics ebook, which you can download from Fred with Fred's help on the website. The first slot strategy in the Slot Tactics book is TRG Slot Strategy number 1, and that's for playing free slot play and maximizing the value back out of free slot play by taking all the winnings. And so when I came to the second name, and keep in mind that at this point in the timeline, I'm writing the book and talking about slots because I feel like I have to, because to my surprise, I'm winning money every month. I didn't expect to win money. I didn't expect it to work. I never planned to report on it. I never planned to talk about slot play, but I've, for several months in a row, won money, and I'm feeling dishonest. So I'm feeling like I have to put this out there, but I don't expect it to work. I don't expect it to be good. I expect at some point to have to walk it back and say, yep, it didn't work. Hence the name of the second slot strategy. TRG slot strategy El Numero Dos. Now, if we translate that, L is the. So in English, it would be TRG slot strategy the number 2. Which I thought was going to be obvious, and I thought at some point I would be able to say, I told you it was a turd of a strategy the whole time. I knew it wasn't going to work. I was sure of it. That's why I named it that way. And I really thought a number of you would sort that out and realize that the L, the was intentional, that there was a difference between TRG slot strategy number 1 and TRG slot strategy the number 2, and that was going to be my out, and I was going to say it's been right there in plain sight, and obviously it wasn't. And so I've been chuckling to this joke by myself, and now I've explained it. So if you found the Easter egg, I hope you enjoy knowing that little bit of podcast lore. I am looking forward to talking to you next time.